everybody. Welcome to a new week. Want you to stay tuned today for our interview with Andrew Pollack. For those of you that do not know Andy, he is the father of Meadow Pollack, who was senselessly, brutally, unnecessarily murdered in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in 2018. We have Andrew on to talk about what happened that day and what he is an advocate for and his solution. So you've heard from Wayne Black in the past about school security. You're going to hear it now directly from a parent who lost a daughter. Unnecessarily, again, lost a daughter. That plus we have a few small stories to go over here at the beginning. Trump's bloodbath insurrection comments again, and what the media is portraying that AOC. It's a good old time down in her district. That plus a couple other things to talk about. Jim, on another wonderful edition of what?
Two guys, one coup.
Yep.
Welcome to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim, where the truth matters and progressives' feelings don't. We bring you the facts from the perspective of two average, everyday guys who will never apologize for being America first, for adhering to our great Constitution, and for saluting the flag that our brothers and sisters have fought and died for. And now, here's Dale and Jim.
Just one coup, really. Although there should be coups all over the place with this government. I'm telling you, I cannot take it. Yeah, folks, again, a lot of small stuff to talk about here early, but really the important part is to listen to Andrew Pollack and what he has to say about school security, about what happened to his daughter, Meadow. Really, honestly.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, great guy, huh?
Well, we'll talk about it when we get into the interview, but there was one, to me, major difference between Wayne and Andrew.
Yes.
And we'll go into that, which I thought was kind of interesting because either way, you're favored either way when we talk about this subject. So anyway.
Correct. Yeah. Either way. So you'll hear about that. Yep. But those two guys are, those are two guys I wouldn't mess with, Wayne or Andrew. I mean, those guys mean business and they know what they're talking about. So, and especially Andy, literally,
coming from experience
that hopefully none of us ever have to have in our life. But first, Jim, let's get into a couple small things real quick here. And I'll tell you why. The media's having a great time. Great time with Trump again.
Isn't it amazing when you take one word?
When you take one word,
take it out or put another word in. Isn't it like, for instance, a lot of illegal immigrants come across the border are rapists, murderers. Okay. They change it to all.
Yeah,
so he says all of them. No, he did not.
So what word did they take, Jim? They took the word bloodbath out of a rally. I think it was in Ohio. I think, if I'm not mistaken. The word bloodbath, and now that is he's calling his MAGA extremists to just commit absolute heinous crimes against liberals in the government, and it's unbelievable, folks. We've got the whole context of that speech here. So in case you're hearing from the liberal media the word bloodbath and all of their craziness that they're going through, this is what he said. Jim, you ready?
Yep.
Let's see what happens here.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Yep.
But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine All he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street. In that way, he's like Biden. But for building a plant, he can do the greatest plants in the world, right? That's all he cares about. I said, I'd like to see one of your plants recently. I said, I'd like to see, where can we go? Well, we have to travel to Mexico. I said, why Mexico? He said, because that's where the big plants are building. China's building really big plants in Mexico, and Mexico's building. What about here? Well, we're building much smaller plants here. Can you believe it?
Yep. So there you go, folks. That's the bloodbath comment that the media is running with, as that word was a literally call to all of us out here, all of us Trump supporters, that we must, if he doesn't win the election, then, we must, create a bloodbath in the country. Yeah. Yeah. He's talking about the economy, you asshole journalists. I can't take it anymore. It's just amazing.
That's why I say Pravda. They're controlled by the left. They say they're not, but they are. They're controlled, just like most of the black people in this country, controlled by the left. This is what we want you to think, and you're going to think this way.
And you're going, that's right. And if you don't, you're not black. And if you don't, you're not black. I mean, that's directly from Biden. So it's unbelievable. I got one more video I want to play you, Jim, and it's our good friend. I haven't heard from him in a little while, but it's getting close to election season now, and so Bernie Sanders is back.
Oh, Bernie!
Yeah,
okay.
Bernie. So Bernie
Thought
Sanders
it was our favorite history teacher.
No, God, no. This is actually directly from Bernie Sanders, and it's
so it's going to be intelligent sounding.
Yeah, well, it has to do with the work week. I'm sure everybody's
heard
my God!
It,
but, yeah. Here we go,
folks.
Let's listen.
Let's
listen to Bernie. He's got great ideas. This guy, he's just filled with them. Let's listen.
CEOs today are making 350 times as much as their average employees. Workers throughout the country are seeing their family life fall apart as they are forced to spend more and more time at work. They're missing their kids' birthday parties, little league, baseball games, and just the time they need with their family. And what stresses them out even further is that after spending all of this time at work, many of them still are living paycheck to paycheck.
Can you stop?
Can
you stop?
I'm
going to stop. Why?
Why are they living paycheck to paycheck?
Why is this happening?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Bernie. Why is it happening? Why are they missing little league games? Why are they missing their birthday parties?
From 2016 to 2020. Why wasn't he talking about it then? Anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's right. Here we go.
At a moment in history when artificial intelligence and robotics, and I hope we all understand that the jobs that people have today ain't going to be there in many cases in 15 years. Our economy is going to be...
Or in another 8 months. Or 4 more if Biden stays in.
Economy is going to be transformed.
Sorry, Jim. Did you want to say something?
Nope.
You sure?
I'll say it at the end. I'll say it at the end.
Intelligence and robotics. The question that we are asking today is a pretty simple question. Do we continue the trend that technology only benefits the people on top, or do we demand that these transformational changes benefit working people? And one of the benefits must be a lower work week, 32-hour work week. This is not a radical idea.
No, it's absolutely just brilliant because, so here's the idea, Jim, is that 32-hour work week, but it will be illegal for your employer to pay you less than you're making now.
Right. So you're getting paid the same amount for working 8 hours a week less. Or more.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of people going to jump all over that.
Oh, of course they want. Right? Of course they want lower work week for the same pay.
The new generation.
They think that's what's really going to happen.
Yep.
They think this is a great idea when we can't get enough employees, when we're behind on our backlogs because you don't get good employees and the supply chain is a mess, and people are working 2 jobs right now to afford this economy. I mean, what is Congress doing? First, they want to ban TikTok for no freaking reason. Don't give me this China bullshit. They want to ban TikTok. Okay, like it or not, use it or not, doesn't matter to me. I don't care. My point is that that's what they're spending their time on, and then this is what I mean. Who cares about
you and I talked about this briefly last week. If you want to go after TikTok or anything with China, you go after the fentanyl. I mean, and you go after the clips that they're putting on handguns to make them automatic. You go after that.
Yep.
Okay, read Bloodbath, by the way.
Yeah.
Or Blood Money.
Blood Money. Blood
Yeah.
Money. Here you go, Jim.
Oops.
Here you go, Jim.
And you'll learn all about that stuff. But again, okay, so we want to go back to AI. All right, why is AI coming in faster? Because you can't get the people to work. So again, I keep hearing all of these reasons why. Okay, we can't get the workforce. Okay, well, we have 22% on welfare. Okay, which a majority of that are working age people.
Capable working
that have been on welfare. Their families have been on welfare for decades. Okay?
Yep.
Why are we not reducing welfare?
Well, Jim.
Why? Because now, if they go down this trend, there's going to be no jobs available for them. That's what the robotics is for. That's why when you walk into McDonald's now, you have this machine. You type in what you want to order.
That and the increase in the minimum wage, which makes it almost impossible for businesses to operate at that level. What did they think was going to happen? You increase minimum wage. You're going to get rid of employees. You're going to increase your prices. And so what if a CEO makes whatever a CEO makes? I'm so sick and tired of just bashing the people. I'm not a Jeff Bezos fan. He's a liberal goofball. But he's certainly, allowed to make whatever he makes. You don't. He provides how many jobs across the country? You don't have to work there, right? If you don't like it, you don't have to work there. But he provides those jobs, and they never see that end of it. They never. It's all about government control.
And what he doesn't say, and you mentioned because there was I cannot remember her name, but a Fox News journalist went up to him and started talking to him about it, and and he got mad at her and did one of this right in her face. I mean, you should have seen it. Is right now if this was a Republican to a liberal, I mean, it would have been, oh my God, look at that. He disrespects women and all that. It would have been a bloodbath. The point of the matter was, all she was trying to point out, unemployment will go up.
Yeah.
Because whether you think businesses are making a lot of profit or not is beside the point, because there's a lot of things out there that they have to do that you don't realize what's going to happen. So if they have to pay you the same amount for less work, you don't think companies are going to have to adjust?
Yeah.
Bernie,
if they wanted to go
wonderful.
If they wanted to go 4 10s, 40-hour work week, fine.
I'll go for that. Yep.
I'm all for that. I think most people are. All the, like you said, all the Generation X or whatever these Z's, I don't know what they're called. I don't know what they are.
Generation Z, I think, is the current.
What's next? What's next? After that, what's the next generation going to be called? But anyways, if there is one,
scares me.
All they're going to hear is, "Hey, 32 hours." Yeah, I get every Friday.
Trans.
I get Friday, Saturday. Oh, by the way, we have no trans news today because our interview with Andy, and that's probably a little bit more important than trans news. But Lady Gaga celebrated National Women's Month with Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah, congratulations.
Anyways, that's wacky Bernie again, spewing his nonsense, his socialist nonsense.
Look, I know it sounds great, and it does. I mean, honestly, if I was a kid coming right out of high school or coming out of college thinking, holy cow. Okay, but there's some professions you're not going to be able to do that with, right? And then the other professions, the factories. You're going
to lower production? You're going to lower
your production's already low.
Yep.
Right? We know that, right? We know it. So I'm speechless because there's more to it than just saying, oh, the CEOs make all this money.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, the president of our company and the family that is owned, I want them to have as many nice things as they can.
Correct.
I don't care how much they're making.
Right.
I have no care in the world.
I do not either.
I just want them to be able to keep a company.
Correct. That's the whole idea of it all. And in the argument, the opposing argument to that will be, well, you have people working Monday through Thursday, and then you have Tuesday through Friday workers. So you don't lose the day of production. You don't lose you understand you're losing 8 hours. And then if you're running 3 shifts, you're losing a full days of production.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, these people are just, They don't understand it. Jim, two more real quick things. Based on, of course, the interview with Greg and Leah, which has gotten good play and a lot of good comments, and I really appreciate that. Except for one guy who called us sorry sons of bitches and we suck because of all the commercials. Yeah, that's a comment we got. I don't know what commercials you're seeing on there, but we certainly aren't getting any paid commercials.
I was going to say.
So if it's an ad before the video starts, that's a Rumble thing, folks. Just like YouTube, I have no control over that. So yeah, I don't think we're doing commercials. Anyways,
trust me, we would love to.
No, boy. Someone want to pay us? I'll sit here for 30 minutes, do it, an infomercial. Go ahead. But based on what we heard on those interviews, and really a lot of good feedback on it, this just came out. Google has interfered with elections 41 times over the last 16 years, Media Research Center says. And this is how it happened. So Google has interfered with major elections in the United States 41 times over the last 16 years, according to a new study from the Media Research Center. MRC researchers have found 41 times where Google interfered over the last 16 years, and its impact has surged dramatically, making it ever more harmful to democracy. In every case, Google harmed the candidates, regardless of party, who threatened its left-wing candidate of choice. MRC Free Speech America Vice President Dan Schneider and editor Gabriel Peruso wrote in a summary of their findings, quote, from the months of Google executives, the tech giant let slip what was never meant to be made public, that Google uses its, quote, great strength and resources and reach to advance its leftist values. They continued. Google's outsized influence on information technology, the body politic, and American elections became evident in 2008 after failing to prevent then candidate for president Donald Trump from being inaugurated. That's in 2008. And then after, that was a period, after failing to prevent then candidate for President Donald Trump from being inaugurated following the 2016 election, Google has since made clear to any discerning observers that it has been and will continue interfering in American elections.
Yep.
So here's my point to this. Had a little discussion with some troll that was in one of the groups we're on Facebook. Every now and then I get into these things. I mostly ignore it, but there's always one. So it had to do it went all the way back to like episode 185. And it was when we were talking about Mayorkas finally being impeached and then Biden's war on vets and that episode. So they commented on the Facebook group, we're spreading misinformation. We're lying.
Yeah.
And so this went on all weekend, right? Back and forth, well, what you prove us wrong? Like, what misinformation are you talking about? This kept going on. Oh, it's not my job to prove you wrong. I said, oh, okay. So you want me to do your research for you. You come and you make a claim and you don't have anything to back it up. I'll make this short. I'm sorry. But anyways, it was an all weekend a thing and I was having fun with it. It was a good time. Released a lot of stress, and then finally, he's like, well, what about Biden's war on vets? I Googled. So that's my whole point to this.
Biden's war on vets.
That's the headline. It's one of the headlines in there. Okay. Yeah. Biden's war on vets. It is. It's
true. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, he's like, I Googled, anything having to do with Biden and his war on veterans and I didn't find one. If it was true, I'd have found one. So I go to Google, right? Page 1, I scroll all the way down. Nope. Biden sports vets. Biden does it all the way. Go to page 2. Same thing, all the way down. Claims Biden doesn't support vets. Untrue. Blah, blah, blah. Biden's done most for healthcare on vets. And then finally, we get to the deep. When you dig deeper, you finally get to immediately 5 articles from 5 different news sources talking about illegals using VA benefits and Biden allowing this, right?
Well, one of our shows, one of our stories on our show was
what we did, but that's the show he was talking about, and he still didn't believe it because he didn't find it on Google. Well, I said, you got to learn Google, Skippy. Listen, sunshine, go down a few pages. You got to do research. You got to dig deep. That was the end of the conversation. no more conversation. But there was 5 articles right there. You just can't look on page 1 because Google is doing this. This is what
Exactly.
Google's
And
doing. Just like
that's an
YouTube
excellent
does it,
point.
just like
Yep.
Facebook does it, just like
Yep.
Instagram does it, just like TikTok will do it. They'll all do it. And yeah, it's crazy. But go on, Jim. That's one.
No,
I don't know if you got anything to add to that.
That was a perfect example of what you
Yeah.
were saying about the story.
It's insane. And then this last thing, DHS calls Haitian migrants' alleged rape of disabled teen heinous. Well, thank you, Department of Homeland Security. Appreciate that. The Department of Homeland Security has called allegations that a Haitian migrant raped a disabled 15-year-old girl. They called it heinous. You think heinous?
Mm-hmm.
But why? Corey Alvarez, I shouldn't even say his name. I apologize. The 26-year-old Haitian national charged with raping the teen at a Massachusetts hotel that was housing migrants last week entered the U.S. last summer via President Biden's controversial CHNV parole program. He was flown into New York City directly from Haiti. I need go no further. He was flown in to New York City, made his way to Massachusetts where they're housing them, where they're housing the migrants while homeless vets are freezing on the streets, or homeless children, or anybody, any citizen who's homeless, right? That doesn't choose to be. Let's exclude Portland, Oregon from that. And because of that, he raped a 15-year-old disabled girl. When is enough? When does it become a bloodbath, Jim? Honestly, I mean, when is enough enough? Week in, week out, we hear this shit every week.
What are your opinions on? Because I was thinking about this when he did the State of the Union, and he kind of referenced. He goes, "This was one." Lake and Riley, one.
Oh yeah, it was and isolated one.
It's still. It was one. Doesn't matter if it was 20. It was one. Okay, it does not matter. I hate to paraphrase Hillary. What does it matter? But but how many of these stories are being shut down?
Yep, exactly.
How many crimes are being done to women
because they're not
by
reported
illegals?
For one.
Yeah. I mean, where, because, when you sit there and say, well, you just don't hear a lot about it. Well, is it because it's being squashed or it hasn't been found yet?
Correct.
And,
which is it? Yeah, it's unbelievable, but the shit's got to end.
Did you hear at California schools, there's parents that are hiring security for their children too?
Really? They're private, like they have to privately hire
private security.
Guys, this is unbelievable. It's literally... This is a do or die election. It really is.
And Gavin Newsom postponed his State of the State address because his Proposition 1 bill's not doing well. So I think honestly, when you look at Steve Garvey in all polls, is ahead of the Democrats.
What is happening? Yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder if there's people, Garth Brooks moving to LA because he's just not accepted anymore. Well, it's because you're a liberal idiot.
It's because you're a liberal asshole.
Just saying. That's all. Yeah. Just saying. I know Toby Keith was very conservative, and I love that about him. I loved his music. That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah,
just
that's right.
Saying.
I liked Garth music when it came out, but nope. Now you went down he's a psychopath. Garth Brooks.
He's bad.
He's bizarre. But anyways, go on, Jim. I'll let you get into yours. I apologize.
Well, I thought this was kind of scary in a way. But there is a Fairfax, Virginia, by the way, Fairfax schools to let students opt out of Holocaust lesson, citing students with different experiences. So real quick, Virginia's largest school district will let students skip a presentation from a Holocaust survivor, saying the diverse district includes students with different experiences. We understand that all students have different experiences. If you prefer to opt your children out of participating in this presentation, please email blah, 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 blah.
They let them opt out of that, but not, go on.
Right. Well, it was just about, to sign in. And so the letter referred to a scheduled presentation from a Holocaust survivor to 7th graders, according to Adele Scalia, a mother of one of those middle schoolers. All right. So what I want to ask you about, Fairfax County contains a lot of Muslim extremists,
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay. So I ask you a question. This is not a class. All right. This is a presenter coming in to discuss it. Okay. Are you okay with allowing parents to opt their children out if they don't want to hear about this?
So
Are
I
you okay with
am
that?
for I am for this reason. Only if I don't think obviously they should hear about it like they should hear about slavery in the United States, like they should hear
Mhm,
about all of it. It's
mhm.
history, it's how you learn from it. They try to remove history. If a parent wants to opt out, that's a parent's choice. I want a parent to have a choice in that matter. Just like I want a parent to have a choice on
Correct.
whether they transition or socially transition
Right.
from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy, or if there's reading materials that are pornographic that a parent can opt out to, or if they can opt out of pride, but they're not doing that. They're not allowing that opt out. They're allowing this opt out. So they're very selective in their opt out options.
Yeah, that's
That's
why I
my
want to be
point of view.
very careful. That's why I
Hmm.
want to be very careful how we do this because I don't, because I don't want. Oh, look at you guys. You want
Yeah.
a parent to be able to opt out of a child hearing a speech from a trans
Hmm.
person,
Yeah.
but you don't. It's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying at
Okay.
all.
Now, so this was interesting, and the only reason I think it's interesting is I think we need to tone back some things here because yes, if a parent does not want their child, because there are parents out there, people that really believe the Holocaust did not happen. It was
Yeah,
made up. It was,
they're
think it
insane and
did not happen. And
lunatics.
yes,
Yeah.
they are.
Hmm.
But so they should have a right to keep their
Hmm.
child out of there.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that doesn't become a huge issue because when you first read it at first, you're probably thinking, oh my God, they don't want to teach this. Well, no, it's
Mhm.
a survivor coming in to give a
To
speech.
give a
Okay.
speech. Yep.
So so folks out there, if you're screaming and yelling, saying, oh, this is bad, well, because if it was a trans speaking to the seventh, we would be
I'd want my
your
parents.
parents should
I'd
opt
want a
out.
parent to be
Right.
able to allow their child to opt out. But like I'm saying, they're not. That's what
Right.
makes this
That's the
so
problem. Yep.
aggravating. Yes, they should be
Okay.
able to opt out of anything, but it's not. Yeah, but they're not. They're not. They're. It's not
No.
equal. I guess. Go on. Yeah.
So, well, no, so moving on now. I just, the left it makes me laugh,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where now I'm starting to think they're off their rocker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee Dem calls for riots after Republicans send pro police bill to governor's desk
What?
with the quote, "You ain't seen nothing yet."
Oh no, that sounds like a bloodbath or an insurrection to me.
Uh,
But
Thank
nope, you're
you.
not going to hear about it on
A
the
Tennessee
mainstream. Go on.
Democrat state senator called for riots on Friday after the Republican-controlled state Senate passed a bill preventing cities from restricting their police forces from making certain traffic stops.
Mm,
State Senator Charlene Oliver, who represents Nashville, said the Republicans' pro-police legislation is rooted in racism.
of course.
Of
Of course
course
it
it
is.
is.
Of course.
I mean,
Why would
Fannie
it be?
Willis. This whole
Yeah.
thing against her is racist.
Is racist.
Really?
That's right.
It's not the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that you made this stuff up, you
Yeah.
lied,
Hmm. Yeah.
anyway,
Another.
whatever.
Yeah. Go on.
And will force those in her district to fight like hell.
Hmm.
The bill was sponsored by Republican State Senate Brent Taylor after Memphis passed an ordinance that banned the traffic stops for issues such as expired registrations, a single inoperable headlight, or a brake light, and loose bumpers.
Hmm.
News Channel 3 reported. Now, folks, a lot of times when these stops happen, if you go back and look at a lot of these, and I know you're going to say this is a big difference, but if you go back and look at a lot of the serial killers,
Yeah.
a lot of them were pulled over just because they had a tail light out. They had, little this, little that, or you find some drugs in a vehicle
Hmm.
on
Yep.
these basic routine traffic
Routine
stops.
stops. That's
All
it.
right. It's
Basic
not
route.
now, maybe a policeman does pull over because somebody's black. Okay, that's
Mhm.
terrible. That should never happen.
Of course not.
But a lot of times,
Yeah.
it's you find things, right?
A tag's
So now,
expired. They pull them over. Something's found. It's so
so
often that it happens.
okay, so this is a Jim Crow bill, the senator said,
Oh, of course.
brought to the Confederates who voted for it.
Hmm.
So now, again, 5 Memphis police officers who got into confrontation with Nichols. Remember this
Mhm.
issue?
Yep.
Remember the
Sure
5?
do.
They were black. Okay,
Yep.
they had to find one white one, and they did, but that
Yep.
white cop wasn't there. But they had to throw a white cop
They
in
had to
there.
throw him in there. Mhm.
So, so the point of the matter is, what this is trying to do is it's protecting police to be able to pull over for registration violations, do all this and do all that.
Mhm.
But this person You ain't seen nothing yet. They want riots if this bill passes.
Of course, and they'll get them, but it'll be peacefully
Oh my God, they will.
protesting.
Of course, because
Riots,
there's
Jim.
angry people out there ready to go, and we all know that because of blood money. Peter Schweitzer's book, we know that China is controlling a lot of these groups that
That's right.
that caused this.
Yep.
And another thing that I thought was interesting:
Mm-hmm.
members of New York's reparations.
Oh boy,
remember those? And Racial Justice Commission. There's a commission. All right. Ron Daniels and Lori Daniel Favors have made headlines in the New York Post with their outspoken comments on a variety of contentious issues. Now, keep in mind, these two individuals, Ron Daniels and Lori Daniel Favors, are on the reparations committee.
Good.
To assign money to black people.
Mm-hmm.
Daniels is a seasoned activist with a history of political engagement, including a presidential run in 92 with the Peace and Freedom Party, said that in October 21 social media post, white folks messed up the weather, black folks saved the planet. I repeat, white folks messed up the weather, black folks saved the planet. Daniel's criticism didn't stop there. The member of the panel, whom State Assembly Speaker Carl Heatsey appointed, referred to Senator Tim Scott as Uncle Tim because he is upholding the system of white supremacy.
Yes,
again,
white supremacy.
A black man succeeds in this country,
and they're a white supremacist.
Goes to one of the highest positions you can have within this country, a national U.S. senator, right?
Yep.
A black man.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because he's supporting white supremacy because he's a Republican. If he was a Democrat, it would be a whole different story.
Oh yeah, name me one Democrat in that's in the Senate or in the House that they call Uncle Tom. Name me one black Democrat that happens to. Yep. Not a one.
And then we have a couple other things here. There will never be peace in Israel until the Palestinians have a home.
Oh boy, they do.
Police all across the country are literally proving daily why defund the police is necessary. I'm old enough to remember some of y'all claiming activists were going too far.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so these are the people that are on this reparations committee.
These
do
you
are
great
trust
people.
that the money's going to be? This is ridiculous.
Absolutely
New York,
great
you're
people.
in trouble.
Yep.
All right. The last thing I want to bring up here is AOC, like Adam Schiff. They just kind of ignore their districts. Adam Schiff has a huge amount of people dying of overdose of fentanyl, and he doesn't care.
Nope.
And literally, he does not care, because he never talks about it. Yep. All right. And we've talked about it in Blood Money. He just does not bring it up because he's indebted to companies who are owned by China. So he's not going to say anything because, let's face it, that's where it's coming from. Okay.
Yep.
Through Mexico into the United States. But she has long been a darling of the Democrat Party, but residents of a Queens neighborhood in her district have become disenchanted with the lawlessness and illegal activity, including prostitution. And I'll get into that in just a minute. Like most of my like-minded residents, we see that this third world market, Ramses Frias, who left the Democratic Party to register Republican, said of the illegal activity in AOC's district that includes Corona, Jackson Heights, and Elmhurst. Basically, you just see clothes thrown across the floor. Unlicensed street vendors are stealing the legal local businesses, and streets are being overrun by illegal immigrants and even prostitutes looking to make a living by unlawful means, according to Frias.
Correct.
So, because it's not a long story whatsoever, but it does say that the items stolen from a donation bins and stolen from stores, and they have just set up shops outside. So what they do is they go in and steal the stuff, and then they sell it outside. These are illegals, folks.
Yep.
All right. And there's no precautions because, of course, they don't get arrested. They can flip off people, beat up policemen, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Correct.
They do whatever they please. They are open about it and then not discreet. And they are. And that's what's insulting about it. These illegals laugh and joke that you can't touch me. So they line up all along 90th Street in front of a pizzeria, a 99-cent store, and just try to pull men. You'll see multiple women in scantily clad clothing. So this is the prostitution thing, folks. All right. Yep. Now, these are illegals. So this is what happens when you create an atmosphere that people can't provide for themselves and can't work. You can't provide for your job, and you have to turn to illegal activities to do so. Now, granted, I guarantee you these women who are going into prostitution are being forced into prostitution. A lot of them are because when you come here, most of the time when these individuals come here, they come here by the cartel. Cartels don't do it for free.
No.
You have to pay them back
You
somehow.
do. Yep.
So anyway, so AOC, good job. You and Adam Schiff are
You're just winning it.
You're a
just
credit
winners.
to your party and a credit to your areas and districts. Folks, wake up. This is where the left leaning Democrat Party wants us to go.
Correct. That's it.
We're heading there.
That's their plan.
So
and it's every district in Demran cities across the country. So, all right, listen, folks, we're going to get right to it. We're going to get to our interview now with Andy Pollack. Again, Andy Pollack, his daughter was murdered in 2018 at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. He's here to tell us his story, how he got through that, what happened that day, and what he's done since and what he continues to do. Great man. Absolutely great man, folks.
Yes.
Stay tuned for that. A couple technical things near the end. It was me, my internet, Cox Wi-Fi, folks. That's all I'm saying. You know it. You hear me bitch about it. I can't do anything about it yet. I'm trying. But anyways, a couple things near the end there. So bear with us on that. But the majority of the interview is spot on. Listen to him. Jim and I will be back to wrap this up right after the interview. Hey folks, we are very honored to have with us today Andrew Pollack. If you don't know Andy, let me tell you a little bit about who he is. He's an American author. He's an entrepreneur. Most of all, though, and most importantly, he's a father. And he's the father of Meadow, who was one of 17 that were murdered at the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida on February 14th, 2018. He's one of the parents that's lobbied for passage of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act. The death of his daughter prompted a movement called Meadow's Movement. It's a movement fighting for increased school security to prevent future school massacres, which is exactly what this was. He's a proponent of the Second Amendment. You oppose stricter gun laws. We'll get into some of those details. He is, though, a proponent of bulletproof glass, metal detectors, enhanced door lock systems, ID checkpoints, school marshals, extremely important. He's met with President Trump, and at the time it was Governor Rick Scott, and then since Governor Ron DeSantis. On September 10th, 2019, he released his book, Why Meadow Died, The People and Policies That Created the Parkland Shooter and Endanger American Students. Honestly, Andy, it's a true honor and privilege to speak with you. I also want to thank our mutual friend, Sandra, for introducing us and hooking this up. I want to start, if I can, and if you're okay with it, going back to that day. I can't and never want to imagine what that's like. I don't know how I would ever react after something like that happened, God forbid. What can you tell us about that day, and then subsequently what's happened to you in your life since?
Well, that day, it was Valentine's Day. So I was with my wife. We went on a picnic, and it's just the worst thing ever imaginable that could ever happen to a parent. Or there's nothing worse. Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather be lit on fire with gasoline.
I hear that.
Than have something like this happen to my daughter. But that day, I'll never forget it. Yeah, even, when you're talking about what I've accomplished in my book and stuff, I still get the goosebumps to this day, like the anger I still have from what happened to my daughter that day and why it could have been avoided. It changed my life forever. I had a lot of things going on before 2018. I coached lacrosse. I played lacrosse. I worked out. I was happy. I vacationed. I did a lot of things with family. I smiled a lot more. And it just, when something like that happens to a parent, I could speak for myself. It just rips your soul out of your body and your heart where you're never the same person again.
Yep.
And I have 2 other boys that are doing great. And I have to be there for them. But, it's just I don't know how everyone else copes, but you're never the same, when
Yeah.
something like this happens. You
Yeah.
just I tried to focus on educating parents so it doesn't happen to other parents in the country.
That works.
And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Why Meadow Died. It's like a handbook to parents that are sending their children to these public schools most of them are terrible.
Most of them. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are terrible. And, meeting, I developed relationships, like you said, with President Trump, who I still keep in touch with, Ron
Good.
DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, Rick Scott. I'm still in touch with these people. And,
Good.
and I still work. I'm going to ISC is a convention out a security convention in Vegas in April. I'll be out there meeting with different companies, seeing new products, educating myself so I could also educate the public to what they should be looking for in different schools. And now it's even spread for me for churches and temples.
Good.
They're sitting targets.
Of course. Yep.
I just donated recently some rifles to a temple. I'm not going to mention the temple, but I mentioned I donated these Sig Sauer AR pistols to a temple that I know, and they have these backpacks that are bulletproof backpacks. That and the rifle, the pistol will be in there, and if something happens, they could pick the handle up. It comes up over their head, and it's a 3+, which will stop a rifle round, and they have an AR. And that's going to be at temples, and I hope other temples should take the lead with this because we just had that shooting in Houston. I switched gears. I work with churches, also church groups, temples, schools, to try and better inform them and to be prepared in case something happens. So this temple, they're prepared. They train. They do active shooter.
Oh, good. Okay.
And part of my donating these rifles was if someone comes in that temple, you make sure there's no trial. Okay, that's what I told them. There's no trial. That's why they got these rifles and to protect the rabbi and the congregation, and never to be victims.
That's right.
What's bothered me, my daughter was a victim. No one came to help her that day.
Correct.
The police didn't go in. They hid. She laid and got gunned down, shot 9 times in that hallway, and no one came in there to help her. Those
protecting
kids.
A friend of hers,
Yeah, she covered one of the friends. The friend got shot through my daughter. She tried to shield her, but no one went. So to me, in my life, is you should never ever be a victim. That's why I'm such a proponent of the Second Amendment. Carry everywhere you go, train. So if something happens like that, you could be there, protect your family, your friends, a congregation, a church or temple. So because it's not focused on.
Yeah, it's a lot of people don't understand
when
right.
It's not a matter of if, it's when. At this, it's
and
just going to continue to happen.
It's going to happen more. We got the 10 million people we don't even know who we let into the country.
Correct.
Over the last few years,
that's the count they're telling us even.
10 million. You had this girl killed recently in Georgia.
Yep.
And that's just only the tip of the iceberg. Think about it. If you have one of these countries and you want to empty out your prisons, you send them here to the United States.
You send them here.
That sounds about right.
Mental patients. All right, let's just send them over. We'll send them to Mexico. And
they're all families. They're all families coming over.
It's all on the up and up, Andy.
So it's that's why I tell everybody I train all the time, and people need to go train. Go to the gun clubs. Go to organizations that have it. I support the NRA big time. I help them. They're out. They have programs to come to churches. If anybody's out there that has a church that wants a vulnerability assessment from professionals, we come out to churches and schools through this NRA. It's called the Community Shield Program. And we'll help churches or temple in the country. Anyone could reach out to me on I guess on my Twitter, Andrew Pollack FL, and I'll see it if you message me. Message me on my Twitter.
Okay, gotcha. Wow.
Okay, so all of this has happened. You come out, and we're still seeing it, right? In your perspective, from your stance, how do you feel schools are handling this? Do you feel? We know they need work, okay, but do you feel that it has been an improvement for the most part, or you think we're just something else is going to happen because we don't think about it until it happens, and then 2 months afterwards we're back to normal.
Everybody, Jim, including myself, thought it could never happen. Parkland, Florida, rated the safest town in Florida. Where I sent my beautiful daughter to school.
Yep.
So I could speak, for certain areas like Florida. I focused on Florida, and Florida made huge changes from after what happened in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. The biggest thing that happened in Florida, we were very fortunate to have Rick Scott as governor.
Correct.
After the shooting, Rick put together a commission to look into all the failures. In that commission, it was called the Marjorie Stoneman Public Safety Commission. In that commission, there were sheriffs, there was lawyers, mental health workers, and parents in that commission. And what they did was they dissected everything from when this shooter was actually adopted, all the way from elementary school to high school. Okay, they looked into everything in this thing's life, and then they dissected everything that happened into the shooting. They came up with where all the failures were, and then they're making necessary changes throughout the state from looking at the failures. That's what happens when you get someone that wants to make a difference and not just point the finger at gun control.
Correct.
When you just point the finger at gun control, it takes away from everything, from any failures that happen, because it's easy. Democrats, they're very simple-minded people. For them, it's very simple to say, let's just blame this object, this gun, this scary-looking gun. Let's blame it on that. And they don't look at any of the facts. They don't look at that the shooter punched his mother's teeth out and never was arrested, or that the sheriff went to the shooter's house over 40 times without ever getting arrested. All these policies that were put in place by the Obama administration, there was leniency policies that didn't want to expel, suspend, or arrest. Mostly it started with African-American kids, but it spread throughout the whole community, and where kids were for instance, when my daughter was in school, a child was allowed to do 3 misdemeanors per school year and never get arrested or get introduced to law enforcement.
3 misdemeanors.
3 misdemeanors per school year, and then it would reset the next year. So you could sell weed. You could beat a teacher up. You could have a fight and break a kid's skull, and nothing would happen to you. You'd go into this program called the Promise Program.
Oh, Lord.
So we were able to look in. What I'm bringing up is we were able to look into all these failures with this commission and make changes.
Right.
And we did that in Florida. We also have a program in Florida. It's called it was named after one of the coaches that went in. It was the Aaron Feist Guardian Program. Okay, this allows for teachers, veterans, or non-law enforcement to go through a program, and it's very intense. It's not just some program you go for a weekend and then you could carry a firearm at the school. Yeah. Okay, so you got to go. I forget how many hours it is now because I just don't remember. But they go through gun retention. They're held to a higher standard of accuracy. These guardians that work at the school, when they shoot, they're held to a higher standard than regular deputies. So we introduced that program into Florida, and it's amazing. I have one of my buddies in Bradford County, Florida. He teaches this program. Okay. And it's incredible what he does with this program. And a lot of the teachers volunteer to go into this program where they're able to carry. The first line of defense is going to be a teacher.
It
or
is.
someone right at the school.
Right.
And then they're plain clothes. No one knows who's carrying in the school. Most of these time, these people are cowards, these kids. They're nuts, and they're cowards that go to these schools. They're going to go to an easy target. The easiest target they can. So when they don't know who's carrying a gun, and there's a guardian, and then you got a sheriff, a deputy at the school, it makes a difference. Florida, so that's one thing that changed in Florida. We have the Guardian program. like you were calling it a Marshall program. It's a
Yeah.
Guardian program. And in certain districts that are conservative, very conservative, they're letting the teachers go through the program too if they want to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big change we made in Florida. Also,
That is a massive change.
yeah, we have one deputy per 500 students.
Yeah.
In the
Oh,
schools.
good. Okay.
By law, but it's the law. You know what I mean? Like parents today, I go, it's 2024. You know, you cannot. I don't know about you guys. You guys have kids?
Older.
They're older.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, like any parent, I go. So do you? I ask them when they're questioning me. It goes, do you know do you have a deputy at your kid's school?
Mm-hmm.
You know how many of them say they don't have one or they don't know? You know what I mean?
A majority.
A majority. Oh, I don't
majority
know.
of them.
What do you mean you don't know? You don't know if there's a police officer at your child's school. You know what I mean? We had one for a few thousand that hid behind a wall. But most likely with the proper training, they're going to go towards the gunfire. So I tell parents, it's amazing how many parents don't know that they even have a cop. It's 2024. We know this is a sick, demented world we're living in.
Correct.
And it's good. There's a chance. Most likely it's not going to happen, but there is a chance that there could be a shooting. And you would want a security guard there. Someone armed and trained to defend your children. And a lot of parents don't know. They don't even know. A big thing we changed in Florida too was single point of entry.
Good. Yep. And super important.
Yep.
You just had that shooting. I forget where it was. Somewhere with. I don't think it was. Was it Uvalde? They went in a side door or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Side door in Uvalde. A side door was propped open or something like that, or it was locked. You know what I mean? You got to know now. Parents in Florida, there's no way you're getting into school in Florida. There's only one way in, and that's through the front door.
Correct.
And
you have resource officers too. And you have, just the presence of having a police car. We saw that in Tennessee with the trans shooter that went to two separate schools, saw a police officer presence there, went to the third one where there wasn't. Boom. And easy target.
And I'm proud to say,
and right through a door, shot through the door. I think it was
shot through the door.
Right through the door, opened it, went in, and started. Thank God. Thank God those officers responded. I watched that response. It was wrenching to me to watch.
It was.
What I've been through.
I bet.
And they went in and they terminated pretty quick.
Yeah.
But did they kill that shooter there? They killed him, right? Whatever.
Yeah, they killed. Yep. They killed.
I watched
right on the spot.
That was a pretty good. That was a really good response. Watching
it was very good. It shouldn't have needed a response, though. That's the point. It shouldn't have got to that point.
There should have been someone, and that was a private. I think it was a private school, wasn't it?
Private school too.
I'm just saying, how do you send your child to a school without someone armed? It's like when you go on a plane, like you're not going to send your kid on a plane. What's the difference? Why send them to the school?
Agreed.
Plane, they got metal detectors you got to go through.
Security checkpoints.
Security checkpoints, and no one's shooting you in on the plane.
Yep, correct.
At the school, there's no checks, and you got to know these things. And
free for all.
Parents, I tell them all the time. If you're a parent, it's your responsibility for your child's safety. You can't put it in the hands of the school district. It's your responsibility.
And we did in the area that I'm from. I'm very familiar with it. My kids went to school there. My wife works for the school system.
In Indiana,
they put it to vote for the people. Going to raise your taxes, but we're going to help secure the schools.
Yep.
Overwhelmingly, we voted for it. They have the money. They're putting in metal detectors. They're putting police. We work with the city police department, so each school will have a resource officer, is what we call them, and they have put single point entries, and they have just hearing what she's telling me that we have done. It's pretty good. But so when a school system says we can't afford it,
which is
put it to vote and let the people in that city vote, saying we know our taxes are going to go up. But that's something that I would like my taxes to go up to do, is to protect the schools.
What you need to do, though, too, is you also have to have an outside company monitoring it, because they took money in my daughter's school. They took the money and didn't do shit with it.
Oh, they blow it on whatever conventions or whatever they feel like doing.
One of the reasons one of the failures where my daughter got murdered was The teacher, when they were shooting inside, when the shooter was in the building and he was shooting, he set off the smoke alarms from the dust, from the concussion, the exhaust from the rifle, and the dust set off the fire alarm.
Mm-hmm.
So in the office, they see the fire alarm going off. My daughter's, there were 90 rounds went off on the second, between the first and the second floor. And my daughter's teacher happened to think that it was safe to let her out because she heard the smoke alarm going off.
Jeez.
So she put my daughter right out into the gunfire where she was killed, because one of the reasons was because of the smoke alarms went off.
Mm-hmm.
So that it was put in, but previously they were supposed to change the smoke alarms in that school to have a delay, just for an instance like this, but it was never changed. And the superintendent was removed from office. The lawyer for the district was removed. 4 school board members were removed from Broward. And you're talking, this is like, I don't know, 4th or 5th largest school district in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the money to do all this. And thank God Governor DeSantis put in a grand jury investigation into the school board. And they mismanaged funds. And this is what they do. A lot of times, it happens. So I would recommend, if you put this in, you have to have a company, an independent company, to see where the money is going and making sure the job's getting done right.
Yep, correct.
You ever hear of J School? That's in
J School?
Yeah, in Indiana, I think.
J School.
J Schools? A buddy of mine's a superintendent out there, and he's done a fabulous
J County?
job. I think
there's a J County schools, and that might be.
That must be it. J Schools? That's probably it.
Yeah.
And he's the superintendent out there, and he's military background, and he's doing an unbelievable job.
Good. That's what it takes.
Usually those individuals do.
Yeah, we got him. I helped get him a gun detection dog that the kids love.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. He goes and, the kids love it. And he goes, sniffs around, and he does his thing, gun detection, floppy-eared dog.
Yeah.
And the kids like it. But like I said, that's great that they're doing that in your county. Like you said, but you can't trust these.
That's a good point.
In the school district to get it
that's
done
a good
right,
point.
because it's not their money they're spending.
The school board, right? Yeah, because I'm not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's what I would recommend. You need to monitor it. You can't just give them these funds.
Do you know? Have you ever heard of a gentleman by the name of Wayne Black? Are you familiar with Wayne at all? He wrote a book called School Insecurities. Really good friend of ours. He did security detail for Don Rumsfeld. He was, this guy's full-blown, military security.
He's
expert.
all over the country talking to people.
Wrote a book on school security, but it's called School Insecurity.
Connect me with him.
I will absolutely connect you with him. Yeah. Sure. The guy's, he's right up. He's your guy. He's us. He's your kind of guy. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was
the Parkland. Was it the Parkland shooting? He was a expert witness or something. Was that the one, or was it a different one? I thought that.
I don't know. It sounds familiar, but I've been pushing for security from day one. Like I said, when you just point the finger, it's easy for Democrats to think one thing. They could just say the gun. They can't look at all the policies they can't look at the gates was supposed to be locked. Maybe that's why it happened. They didn't lock
the simplest answer. The simplest answer.
And how many times do we have to hear people say, "Oh, it doesn't surprise me that person did it"? How many times do we have to hear that?
We had we had the security team that these monitors said if anyone was going to shoot up the school, it was going to be this kid. And they see him come in with a rifle bag. He was carrying a regular Cabela's rifle bag, an Uber. A lot of people don't know Uber. He called Uber. Uber picks him up with a rifle bag. The lady drives him to the school. Right? He gets out of the school with a Cabela's. Oh yeah, with a Cabela's rifle bag. And the monitor there, this jerk off Medina, who I'm still, Andrew Medina, sees him, an adult, and doesn't try and stop him, or doesn't hit all he had to do was say code red, and my daughter would be alive. That's it. She'd be locked down. Well, everyone in the school would be alive. But he says he didn't want to be the guy to call the code red. This is his quote.
That's what his quote.
Guy, Andrew, I didn't want all the sirens and all the cars coming. I didn't want to be the guy.
Unbelievable. When he could have been the guy and should have been the guy.
Could have stopped him. Grown man.
Could have stopped him.
This little weasel of a kid. It's not like he's pointing a gun at him. All he did was have a rifle bag,
and walk by him.
And I would rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather, whoops, sorry.
Most people will.
Nothing's in it. I mean,
there's so many what ifs that could have saved my daughter's life that day that it didn't. It just, everything was against her, from this jerk at the gate to the cop hanging out hiding behind the wall. There was just so many failures, that happened. He trespassed. People want to talk about, banning guns. This kid trespassed at the school a year prior. The Crazy Boy, his nickname was Crazy Boy, trespassed at the school a year prior and didn't arrest him for trespassing at the school. So maybe, if they didn't have all those leniency policies, maybe if they arrested him when he came to the school and he spent a couple of days in jail, maybe he doesn't go back in a year and shoot the school up.
Right.
But we'll never know. There's so many what ifs.
To me, it's and again, I know we always.
He has some internet issues a lot.
Oh, it's me. I hear you now.
No, him. It's Dale. Dale's. You there, Dale?
Me and you are here.
Yeah, that happens a lot. If his internet, his Wi-Fi is touch and go.
Yeah, why doesn't he? I got that Starlink. It changed everything.
Yeah, he's done a lot of different things, but he lives by Eglin Air Force Base, so we don't know if that has something to do with the Wi-Fi, being there. But so we look at, so you look at all this stuff, and he can edit and however, but it's amazing when you look at the situations, and you especially have went through this. How many different times have we seen these shooters, and if this person would have acted, and it's so frustrating because you trust people to do the right thing, but is it society that would say, well, we don't want to make an assumption or say this is that, and then that's not, what is it that has people here in the United States that just don't want to say something, and it's just sad.
It's not even, there's a couple of things like people doing now. They all see something, say something, that's common practice. But one of the biggest problems in the United States is mental health issues that are going on with, the population's doubled so quick, right? I don't know, since my parents were being brought up, the population doubled. So whenever, and my wife's an ER physician, so I know this personally, what happens. The police will go pick up somebody that has a mental issue, right? Acting erratic. Police are called crazy, right? What happens to them 95% of the time is, they could be saying they're going to shoot people. They take them to the ER, right? And they keep them for 24 hours, and then they let them right back out. And these people are nuts. You know what I mean? They're crazy. They are. There's nowhere to put them. So instead of putting them through the system where they get a ding on their background, where they see a psychiatrist, where they get in front of a judge, these mentally ill people that are evil. A lot of them are just evil, bro. There's more to it than just that mentally ill. So they don't go through the system. We have it. It's called the Baker Act, or there's laws in place, but no one uses them. There's hardly any jurisdiction that takes and the police use the hospitals as a dumping ground for these mentally ill people. They don't want to deal with them. Let's bring them to the ER. And I'm telling you, most of these people, if you look that are doing these shootings, a lot of them have already had mental illness in their background. So that if they would put them through the system where they would get it on their background, they wouldn't be able to purchase a rifle or a handgun. So that's what and you see there's nowhere to put these people. They bring them to the hospital. They let them right out in 24 hours. It happened. The one who killed my daughter threatened to kill himself, threatened suicide. He went into the hospital. They brought him to the hospital. He was out in 24 hours. No ding on his background, and this happens over and over again.
Yeah.
That as most, I think 50% of mass shooters in the last 20 years were seeing a mental health counselor 6 months prior to their shooting. Over 50% of them.
Yeah. Wow.
Was seeing a mental health 6 months, and they never did or said anything about it. Because there's no accountability. They don't have to be held accountable. These mental
That's across. I apologize for disappearing there.
And the worst, like I said, the worst is they don't get. We have laws in place to prevent these people from getting firearms, but if we don't enforce these laws with these mentally ill people, then they're going to be able to go and pass a background check and buy a rifle or a pistol or a shotgun and do whatever harm they want.
And they focus on that too a lot, Andy. Is they focus on, well, he legally obtained that fire. Okay. He legally obtained, or she legally obtained a firearm. That's great, but they shouldn't have, based on their what could have been a mental check.
Like I said, the one who killed my daughter was in the hospital for trying to kill himself. One summer he was under mental health care. They couldn't find a hatchet. There was a hatchet missing in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're good.
About a missing hatchet in his garage, but they recommended he go to school that fall with my daughter.
Unbelievable.
Mental health workers. And
unbelievable.
They had to frisk the shooter every day before he went into school, and none of the parents, no one in the community knew that this thing to the school with these kids, and they had to frisk him or pat him down every day because they thought he was bringing weapons into the school.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, this is that. You know what Florida did too? I'm going to tell you what's unbelievable. These are all good things, and this is what Florida leads the way for the whole country right now.
Mm-hmm.
Parents could take money now instead of they get like a $7,000 tax credit per student to send your child to a private school. Correct. Parents' choice. You know how many people moved to the religious? They want to send their children to a temple or a Christian school, things like that. And now they're getting $7,000 to $12,000 per student. So the public schools, like where my daughter went to school, they're down over 50,000 students since the shooting. Because parents are waking. A lot of parents are waking up. That Moms for Liberty group is a great group. Parents are waking up to this. To not sending them to be indoctrinated into these public schools. And that's what I tell parents too. All the time. If you could afford it, like I would have sold, I'd sell an organ to be able to pay for my daughter to go back into.
That's right.
If I didn't have it,
Yep.
But really, it's rare that there's a shooting at a private school, and private schools, they just.
Yeah, they just do it. They just do it right, and they just and it's because the public schools often. I don't know why I disappeared there for a couple of minutes. It's just ridiculous. What happens? I don't know.
Private school, like my grandchildren, if I ever have them with my sons, I don't even know. But I guarantee you, they're going to be in a private school with security,
for sure,
single point of entry. They're not going to be indoctrinating these kids, but it took a.
Private or homeschooling is really the option until public schools wake up. Well, and then that starts by what happened down in your county. Changing the school board system. So
it breeds competition when parents, to the public school system.
Yep.
When you have charter schools, private school, homeschool. Well, why are we losing all these students? Maybe we're doing something wrong in the public school system.
Yep.
So they got to kick it up a notch to try and get the kids coming back to the public schools.
Yeah,
or let them all crash. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? I agree.
Teachers unions are evil. Most of them.
They are. Department of Education's corrupt the whole way down.
Party.
Yep.
They're all just Democrats.
That's it. Yep. I agreed. Andy, I have a hard stop, so I apologize that I'm not trying to cut it short.
I just another time.
I'll do it whenever you want to do it. So
would love to have you back.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back because there's so much more to talk about. We'll hook you up
Yep.
with Wayne Black, who we
Yes,
talked
definitely.
about. Yeah, solid dude, man.
Yes, he
You
is.
guys will,
Yeah,
yeah,
no
you'll want to
problem.
talk
Look it
to him.
up. You got my email.
I do.
So yeah, shoot me an email, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to go right now. I got to go find one of my heifers went out to calf, and
Yeah.
I haven't found her like in 2 days. So I'm
Oh
hoping
no.
it's okay. So we're gonna go.
Yeah,
Okay.
go do that. Andy,
Yeah.
again, thank you so much. It's honor to know you. We appreciate it.
Yes.
We appreciate all you're doing.
Thanks, guys.
Super sorry still for your loss,
Yes.
and anybody in that situation. I can't imagine, never want to imagine it. But keep up the fight because that's what it's
Yeah,
going to
thanks for
take.
doing what you're doing. Yep.
Solid man. Thank you,
Thanks,
Andy.
buddy.
We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jim.
All right. Talk to
See
you.
you, Jim.
Bye.
Well, folks, you just heard from Andy Pollack. Again, Andy, thank you so much for coming on. It was a privilege to have you on the show to tell your story. We are certainly glad to know you.
Yes.
Couldn't imagine. I just couldn't. The guy's solid, just a solid individual. I don't know. Everybody reacts different, right? You could see the other point where people would be like, we need more gun control. He's right to the root of the point that this should have never happened. How many signs were there with this kid? They used to have to frisk this kid when he came into school. These are things I didn't know. Okay. That I wasn't aware of. Maybe I should have been, maybe it's been in the news. I don't know, but I was not aware that this kid, I knew there were signs. I knew there were some issues, but he drives to the school with a rifle bag, Ubers his way.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything
That was the quote unquote individual that saw him didn't want to get
involved. And for that, his daughter and 16 other were murdered that day. It's unbelievable, folks. We talk about it all the time. There's common sense ways to resolve this. How any school at this point doesn't take either the advice of Wayne Black or what Andy is saying. There's a combination of all sorts of things. Jim, I think you were going to bring up one point that was kind of different from Wayne compared to him, but they both make sense to me, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because I will never fault somebody who thinks this way or doesn't think this way, because in some ways I do, but it's the whole thing about letting teachers carry
Correct
in school.
Correct.
And Wayne Black is completely against it. Well,
I wouldn't say
let me rephrase that. He's not completely against it. He's not completely against it. He says there needs to be they have to want to.
Yeah.
And two, if they're military, ex-police, or something like that, or have extensive training, then it's something to think about. Okay, so he does. I'm sorry, that was a wrong thing to say. But whereas Andrew comes in and says, we should do that. We should have teachers in there. Now, I could go either way. Honestly, I would not have a problem with schools having teachers carry. Granted, I know kids would try to. Well, no, we know that when you have these boxes, all right. And so there's ways to keep them from getting out of this, right? And you won't know where it's at.
You won't know where it's at.
Okay, so it'll be, So, and it's not something that's going to be easily. Oh, here, look at this. This is it. So, but I thought that was different. I thought that was interesting because we do know that there's a lot of people on our side. But the point of the matter is, the gun laws weren't followed. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the fact that we don't have enough gun laws. We have plenty of gun laws. The background checks were not done correctly, right? Because they couldn't put in there that he was in a hospital, right? Because we can't do that.
We can't have
got to
a
be
mental
careful.
health issue.
And so it's again, they want to blame the gun
as always.
The left wants to blame the gun. This is what happened. But this individual, there was warning signs all over the place
for years with
this
and
one. His daughter and the story about his daughter.
Oh my God.
Protecting a friend of hers.
Yeah.
Come
on, guys. Literally, this is ridiculous. This should never happen. It should not happen in this country. But it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And I imagine, I feel sometime soon here near the end of the school year, I just feel it's going to happen again. And it's how they can't see how what was missed, especially in this one too, this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, how they
Every
can't,
one of them.
how they just go directly to gun's fault when there were so many missed opportunities to have this kid put away for mental evaluation or whatever, and his daughter would be alive today along with 16 others.
Every
Every
story.
story, it's the same thing. Every story. There's a mental
The
health
trans that
issue.
shot up the school.
Yeah.
The trans that shot
Yeah.
up the school. Why didn't they go to the first
Yeah.
place? The first place they went to,
Police presence.
they didn't go to it because it was too secure.
Same with the second place. Went to a third place.
I'm telling
Folks,
you,
simple
people
solutions
out there
here.
agree to these levies or these bills that pass to increase your taxes, because your taxes go up anyway, right? But when a school, as one that I'm familiar with, raises money from taxpayers to help save the schools. Now, again, Andrew made a good point. You need to have a third party person watching where that money's going. I agree 100%. Because that is true. There's a lot of money going into this stuff. But this school system's never had a situation like that, but they're trying to play ahead of the game. So I'm proud of them for that. I really am. Because I think it is the right thing to do. And because, I'm willing to do that. I have no problem raising my taxes to pay for
protection. The
security in the school, because there's security detectors. There are elected metal detectors that you have to go.
The problem is, though, Jim, is the school systems have enough money. The Department of Education, I'm talking from the top down, piss away so much cash, and I'm not saying every school and every school system and every student body.
I'm going to say most school systems piss away
they
cash.
piss away their cash and they blow it on bullcrap stuff, and they focus on LGBTQ agendas. They focus on DEI. They focus on nothing to have to do with either the student learning and or being protected. Nothing.
Yep.
And it's enough's enough. I get angry hearing stories like this, angry hearing about it, and it's a bunch of bullshit, and it's got to stop. But anyways, Andy was wonderful.
Yep.
He's just absolutely great guy. Honored to know him. Jim, that's all we've got for today. Is there anything else
real
for you?
Quick, I want to just add. Well, I don't want to sound like a far right militia wacko. These people out there, but just keep in mind one thing: when the left comes after your guns. Why are they coming after?
Why are they coming after it?
Is it protect the public?
No way.
Or is it to keep you from protecting yourself when
shit hits the fan?
They eventually try to do what they want to do.
That's what it is. Plain and simple. Saying. Of course, a liberal won't see it.
That's how China did it.
It's how China. It's how Venezuela
in charge now.
That's how they all do it.
As soon as they took over, any knives, anything of weapons were taken away, and it's illegal.
They all do it.
So they can't be. I'm just telling you, folks. I'm not a militia guy. Don't get me wrong, but you got to just see what's going on.
Exactly. You have to.
I mean, all you have to do is look at Chicago, for God's sakes. Some of the most strict gun laws, and an awful lot of gun most of the people, the crimes that happen, they shouldn't have the gun. Bad people will always have the gun.
Always. Every time. Jim, thank you for your contribution today, folks. Thank you for your support. Please remember to like, follow, and share on Rumble. Let's not
I forgot.
Yeah, it's all right, but we didn't. Let's not forget our friends at the Warrior Shield Foundation.
Yes.
Grit Gear, Lock and Load Coffee, Freedom Ring Apparel. These are 4 things that you should be focusing your hard-earned cash on. I know it'll be tougher with a 32-hour work week. I get that. But when you get your cash, put it to good use and put it to good American-made, America first, veteran-owned companies that are taking care of those out there that take care of us. So please take care
and for those of you that order coffee through Amazon or something, because a lot of people do, they order the Dunkin' and stuff, which you and I are Dunkin'
go to
fans,
Lock and
right?
Load.
I mean, we enjoy Dunkin'.
Get your coffee.
But why not go to Lock and Load? Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more money, but look at what you're doing.
Look where it's going.
Yep.
Look where it's going. So that's the important part, folks. Do that. Again, like, follow, and share on Rumble. We appreciate it. We gained a few followers some more, so it keeps happening.
Well, we've had some great interviews.
Man,
that's what we ask you. Honestly, the ones when we have the interviews, honestly, those are the ones you need to like and share, especially because, man, Man,
That's
especially with Greg and Leah's story,
Holy
folks.
mackerel.
I mean, you can't fight it.
They
won.
won. You can't fight it.
You can't sit there and say, "Well, this is made up. This is fake news. They made up."
I can't wait to have them back
they had
on.
the evidence.
I literally
to prove.
can't wait to have them back on. I literally.
The back on, they're going to actually talk about winning.
That's right.
And so which is what we want to do, because they got to be, they got to go through all their stuff.
Do.
They have to go through that, but they are definitely going to come back on. And
we got we got great interviews coming up too, folks. So stay tuned for all of that. In the next couple of weeks. March has been crazy busy for us, hasn't it? And we have our good friend Sandra to thank for that, to be honest with you. And she's been wonderful.
Yeah, she's
very,
great.
very helpful to us.
I mean, that's, And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we are going to be possibly on a show here.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about that when it's finalized.
For sure. Yep, when the dates are finalized. So, Jim, I'm done. You have safe travels. I know you're going somewhere, so be careful and safe travels to you. We will be back Thursday. Am I right, Jim? I'm not saying that wrong. We will have another episode this Thursday. Until then, Jim, goodbye. Appreciate it. Everyone, like, follow, and share on Rumble, and we'll talk to you Thursday. See you.
God bless America.
See you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim. Remember, you can watch on YouTube and Rumble and listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it, and it helps others find us when searching for podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and TikTok. Just search for Two Guys, One Coup. That's the number 2, guys, and the number 1, Coup, C-O-U-P. Thanks again for listening to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast, and God bless the United States of America.